Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. It's Monday, August 24th. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is where we bring you your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. I appreciate you being here to get filled in on everything that's impacting you here in Northeast Ohio. I hope that everyone had an incredible weekend. We had some beautiful weather here in Northeast Ohio over the weekend. Hopefully you were able to take advantage of that, get outside, refresh, rejuvenate. I can tell you that I, for the very first time, finally rode some of those scooters that have been around town, and it is so fun. If you have not done it, I highly recommend it. But here is a pro tip, particularly if you're going to use the Lime scooters. They have a day pass for $17, and it's a lot cheaper, because we paid about that much for riding it around for about an hour. So, little pro tip there for you if you haven't used those scooters yet. Don't just download the app and hop on it like we did. There's a day pass that you can get, and you can save yourself some money. All right, back to the news. We are off to the races already today with lots of things going on. Impeachment articles have been filed against Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. We'll tell you what's behind that and what people are saying about that. Also, what's going on with the Republican National Convention this week. That's already underway, and there have already been things that have been streaming from the Republican National Convention social media channels. We'll tell you what to expect. The Akron murder suspect has been arrested after a multi-state manhunt. We'll tell you how that happened, who he was found with, and some of the things that he's accused of doing, as well as what's going on with the COVID-19 testing in the NFL. It was a roller coaster day yesterday for the Cleveland Browns and other organizations. What's going on with that? Let you know about a brand new piece of information that we're learning about the city banning tailgating on city property and how they plan on going about doing that. And also remind you that it is Clear the Shelters month, and the Cleveland Animal Protective League is actually discounting adoptions. The word is adoptions. That's what they're doing. So we'll tell you what that's going to look like for the rest of the month, and that's starting tomorrow. First up, impeachment articles have been filed against Governor Mike DeWine. These were filed by Ohio Republican Representative John Becker. Becker has put forward 10 articles of impeachment against Governor Mike DeWine, and this is tied specifically to his response related to the coronavirus. DeWine is accused of violating the Ohio and U.S. constitutions, as well as multiple sections of the Ohio Revised Code related to his COVID-19 response. In the articles and in a statement, Becker alleges that DeWine meddled in the conduct of a presidential primary election. If you remember, our primary election was delayed because of COVID-19, and also accused of arbitrarily closing certain businesses while allowing others to remain open with the various Department of Health orders that have been issued since COVID-19 came to be impacting us here in the state of Ohio. Now, similar to the impeachment earlier this year of President Donald Trump, the Ohio Constitution gives the Ohio House of Representatives the sole power of impeachment. To be impeached of something is to be charged with something. A majority of members of the Ohio House would have to support the effort in order for DeWine to actually be impeached, which would be to be charged with these 10 alleged offenses that have been put forth by Representative Becker. And just like at the federal level as well with Donald Trump's situation, 2/3 of the Ohio Senate would then have to vote to convict the governor if he were to be actually convicted of the things that he is now being accused of by Representative Becker and other Republicans in the Ohio House. Ohio House Minority Leader, Democrat Amelia Strong Sykes, who represents Akron, she issued the following statement. Instead of working to rebuild the public's trust or calling the House back from summer recess to address the very real public health and economic crises Ohio currently faces by focusing on protecting small businesses and slowing the spread of COVID-19, Republicans continue to fight one another over political power. Ohioans deserve better leadership, and I hope Republicans refocus their attention towards the struggling Ohioans who need them to serve instead of enriching and promoting themselves. Governor Mike DeWine, of course, is a Republican. The House is controlled by Republicans, and the Senate is controlled by Republicans here in Ohio, but that does not mean that there would be the necessary support required to actually impeach Governor Mike DeWine or even to convict him if that does move forward to that level. Governor Mike DeWine hasn't issued a public statement yet. This is developing, of course, but he did tweet today about free COVID-19 pop-ups happening around Ohio this week. There will be one here in Cleveland on Saturday. Now let's take a look at what will be happening in the Republican National Convention today. That kicks off today. The 4-day event is themed Honoring the Great American Story. Today, on Monday, the theme will be the Land of Promise, and the goal there is to show how President Donald Trump helped to renew the American dream. The overall goal of the Republican National Convention, according to people who have been on the organizing committees, say that the goal is to focus heavily on the president's accomplishments over his first 4 years and lay out a second-term vision for the administration. Ohio will be represented by the speakers tonight. U.S. Representative for Ohio, Republican Jim Jordan, is expected to speak tonight. Other featured speakers include South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He will have the closing speech tonight during the primetime block of the RNC. Former Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley, the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., as well as Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is a top fundraising official for the Trump re-election campaign and is also dating Donald Trump Jr. Trump is expected to accept the Republican nomination at the White House. He had initially planned to do that in Charlotte, North Carolina. There were also plans that he would maybe do that in Florida, but now is planning to accept the nomination at the White House. Many people are wondering if this is permissible under federal law. There is a federal law, and it's known as the Hatch Act, and generally that law forbids the use of government property and employees for doing political activities on government property. However, there are exceptions, and the president and the vice president are exempted from that. So it is not against federal law for President Trump to accept the nomination from the White House. Now, we talked a lot last week about how the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, was different this year because of the need for things to go virtually. The RNC will also be different this year. President Donald Trump is expected to speak every single day. There have already been things streaming from the Republican National Convention on the RNC social media channels, and we've had those things as well streaming on WKYC.com. You'll be able to watch the primetime main portions streaming live from 8:30 to 11. That's tonight through Thursday. You can watch that on the RNC social media channels. We'll also have that on WKYC.com, and we will have a special report on 3 News from 10 to 11 p.m. Now, let's talk about the murder suspect out of Akron who has been allegedly involved in a multi-state crime spree. His name is Timothy Sargent. He has been captured as of this morning. He was captured in Sioux Falls, South Dakota after a multi-state manhunt. He is 42 years old, and he is wanted for a shooting near the Towpath Trail in Akron last week. He's also believed to be connected with several other shootings, including an earlier killing in West Virginia. According to the Akron Beacon-Journal, a man named James Tomlinson, who is the father of a 22-year-old woman named Rebecca Tomlinson, Rebecca is believed to have been killed by Sargent, according to authorities. Well, according to James Tomlinson, Sargent said that he would prefer to go out in a, quote, blaze of glory rather than return to prison. Tomlinson said that he's hurt people, he has nothing to lose now, and he is a loose cannon. Well, Sargent was taken into custody this morning along with a woman named Savannah Emick. Both of them were named as wanted in a shooting that left 2 adults hurt outside of a park in Indiana on Wednesday as well. U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott said it was the task force here in Ohio that worked around the clock with local partners and law enforcement across the country to locate and apprehend what he called this pair of violent individuals. So Timothy Sargent in custody as of this morning, taken into custody in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Now let's talk about the roller coaster that the Cleveland Browns organization had on Sunday. The Cleveland Browns shut things down on Sunday after there were presumptively positive COVID-19 test results within their organization. Now, the Browns weren't the only team who were impacted with these initial, at least, positive COVID-19 results. And the thing that all of these teams had in common was a lab based in New Jersey. Within the Cleveland Browns organization, there were multiple presumptively positive tests that included players, coaches, and support staff. So when they got those results back, they immediately shut everything down. They went into their planned protocol, and they said that they were going to be doing everything virtually. Well, later that day, there were retests that showed negative COVID-19 results. So once that happened, the Browns did reopen the facility, and of course, people who still have those test results in question will have to test negative again before they're allowed to return to the building. Our senior reporter Andrew Horansky talked with Dr. Christine Schmotzer of University Hospitals about how this can happen if we're getting these false positives. Dr. Schmotzer said it's important to know that the testing does work, but things can happen. She said things that can give you a false positive include having the flu. If you have flu in your nasal passage, if you're doing the swab test, that can result in a false COVID-19 positive. Also, contaminating of samples at the point of collection, and also processing in the lab. So Dr. Schmotzer said these are things to definitely consider as we take a look at what happened here with the Cleveland Browns and in football. And the Browns said that they are continuing, and the NFL is continuing to work with the lab to see exactly what happened that resulted in these initially positive COVID-19 test results that, based on retesting, seem to have been false positive. Here's a big story today. The city of Cleveland has prohibited tailgating on city property before Browns games. And maybe this isn't something that's necessarily unexpected, but we're just officially now hearing it for the first time. This was tucked into an order from Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson. So there will be no tailgating allowed on city property. That's including the Muni lot. Yes, and in order to help make that happen, the city will be not allowing people into city parking lots 2 hours before Cleveland Browns home games. The order reads, tailgating, even for groups of less than 10 persons, is prohibited on city property, including city-owned parking lots. Vehicles will not be permitted to park prior to 2 hours before the start of a football game on any city-owned parking lot. This was part of Mayor Frank Jackson's order extending the city's proclamation of civil emergency through at least September 30th. Now, the Browns are scheduled to begin their NFL season away against the Baltimore Ravens on September 13th. The first home game would be a Thursday night game against the Bengals on September 17th, and they were also supposed to be home again on September 27th, taking on the Washington football team. So there will be no tailgating on city property for those games. Now, taking a look at the possibility of fans in the stands, last week, Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Health put forth an order that said you could host 1,500 fans or 15% of the fixed seating capacity, whichever number is lower. Well, First Energy Stadium holds about 68,000 people, so that lower number is 1,500. So as of right now, the Cleveland Browns, under that order, are allowed to host 1,500 fans. But DeWine did also say that teams or venues can submit a plan to the local health department and the Ohio Department of Health asking for higher attendance. And any decision that's issued by the state Ohio Department of Health director would not be subject to appeal. So under that order, that would be the final say. They can submit a plan. Whatever the answer comes back as, that's the answer. So if the Browns do submit to be allowed a 20% capacity, for example, that would be about 13,600 fans in the stands. Now, that is obviously a lot less than 68,000. It'll be very interesting to see what a football season is like with either no fans in the stands or a drastically reduced number of fans in the stands. Only time will tell there, but this tailgating ban order, again, not necessarily something that we weren't expecting, but just another one of those daggers that just keeps coming. A lot of people here in Northeast Ohio definitely not going to be happy about that because we love our Browns and we do love our tailgating. I'll be honest, I'm bummed about it myself, but this is what needs to be done for the safety, according to Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Health and the city of Cleveland. Now, here's some news for you if you're an animal lover and if you are able to adopt a furry member of your family right now. The Cleveland Animal Protective League is lowering fees to help clear the shelter. This is an initiative that's been going on all month, the APL's initiative to clear the shelters and get animals adopted. So beginning tomorrow, running through next Monday, the APL is taking an extra $25 off of all adoption fees. Regular adoption fees are as follows. Puppies younger than 5 months older typically cost $200 for adoption fees. Dogs that are older than 5 months and kittens that are younger than 5 months are typically $125. And to adopt an older cat is typically $50. You can take all those fees, drop them by $25. That's what the fee will be for the next week if you make an adoption through the Animal Protective League. All adoptions, by the way, are being virtually processed because of COVID-19, and all animal pickups are being done with a scheduled appointment and face masks and curbside services. So you can find all the details for that on WKYC.com and in our WKYC app. That's it for your early 3 News Now update here for Monday, August 24th. I'll be back here at 3 p.m. after we get those updated numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19 and also whatever else is topping the headlines on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. I will see you back here in just a little bit. I'm Stephanie Haney.